In February 2020, I made a video where I went over my 2019 earnings. I did this because I believe people should be more comfortable talking about their money. The more taboo people are about it, the harder it is to discuss. So I'll do my part and talk about it. In the last video, I only talked about 2019. In this video, I'm going to talk about all of the money I've made since I went to full-time content creation, which was around October 2017, I believe. We'll break it into different categories, the first one being the big one, YouTube. I know you guys just want the final number, so here it is. In the past 4 years and about 213 days, I've earned an estimated $1,807,284.47 Canadian from ad revenue. This is the majority of my income, as YouTube is my largest platform and ad revenue is fairly consistent. Now I'm going to say the same thing I said last time. Don't look at this number and think, wow, YouTube pays so much and is so easy. I can easily do that too. Because the reality is that you can't. I don't mean to be a downer, just a realist. I put an obscene amount of work into my channel in the beginning, sometimes working up to 120 hours a week. As time went on, I was able to start relaxing a bit more and not work so much while still managing to keep my channel growing. But even with all that work, it was still like 90% luck. For every big channel like mine that you see, there are hundreds of thousands that just never get any attention, and a couple of thousand of them put in a lot of work. That's not to say that you shouldn't pursue this if you enjoy it. You definitely should. Just don't look at this as a get-rich-quick cheat code that you can do too. Now let's talk more about the money. This graph is a little hard to read, so we're going to move to a month-to-month graph. Here you can see how my monthly income has shifted over the years. Generally, November and December are supposed to be the highest dollar per view month. However, they're historically some of the lowest viewed months for me, so they're never my top earners. Instead, those top earners were September in 2020 and then June in 2021. June, I think, is somewhat obvious. COVID lockdowns were still coming and going, so a lot of people were still spending a lot of time watching content, and the younger demographics were getting out of school and had a lot more free time. September is the more surprising one for me in 2020 because that was the season that Zero came out, in Shadow Legacy, which was probably the poorest received season of Siege ever because Ubisoft didn't announce that the season was releasing until 10 hours after the launch. So I assumed the reason for the spike there was because of spillover from the August viewership, and it was slightly getting boosted with the new season, so it kind of just all worked together. Now looking at this month-to-month graph is both exciting and scary. It's exciting because you can see how much you can earn from content creation, and it's absolutely insane. I do have to remind myself from time to time about how lucky I am, where sometimes I can earn as much in a month as people earn in a full year. But it can also be scary, as you can see from the graph, it can be super inconsistent. That being said, even on the low months of earning 30K a month, that's still insane. It can just be frightening to see your income drop by over 60%. Doesn't matter if it's going from 100,000 to 40,000 or from 10,000 to 4,000, a 60% drop is still scary, especially when there's nothing you can do about it. The only way to really avoid this is to become a personality YouTuber, which I think a lot of you will agree I do not have the personality for. So instead, when you're locked into a game like myself and other Siege content creators, then your whole career kind of hangs on you be making smart decisions, which they don't have the best track record of. So my entire career kind of hangs on them keeping Siege interest high, which is pretty risky. This is why I've been working a lot more on variety content, which has been hit or miss, but I'm going to keep going until you guys develop Stockholm Syndrome and start watching them all. Just so you know, my current plan is to upload variety content every Monday and Friday, in case you want to watch more of that. But this brings me to something I want to point out that at least I found interesting, is the amount of money a video can make depending on what type of game it is. The main reason I bring this up is because I was comparing my Siege videos to my variety ones and trying to determine how much viewership I would need on my variety content in order to make a more consistent switch over. Luckily, I have two videos that did about the same. I made an Apex educational video that did good for variety content, which was getting about 30,000 views. And then I made a Siege video that did pretty poorly for Siege, which got 32,000 views. The Siege video made about $220. The Apex video made $99. So the Siege video made more than double the revenue, even though the views were about the same. And the Siege video actually had less watch time than the Apex video, which is a huge factor for YouTube ad revenue. This kind of shows how locked creators like myself are into their games. YouTube punishes us for even trying to branch out. Now, I'm not saying all this so you guys feel bad for me. You shouldn't. Just more so to explain why you might see creators still sticking with their main game, even though they're very clearly burnt out on it. Now, a little more depressing piece of info, which I was not expecting until I just looked into it for this video, was how much money I essentially lose per year making variety content. Currently, I upload 2 non-Siege videos a week, Mondays and Fridays like I said earlier, which means about 104 variety videos a year. If I didn't make any variety videos, instead they were all Siege videos, I would earn about $200 to $500 more per video depending on how the video performs. For the sake of the argument, we're going to average it to about $350, which honestly is probably on the low end. When you put that all together, that means I'm essentially giving up at least $36,400 a year just to make variety content. Let this be a lesson to any other Siege content creators watching this as a reason why you should branch out early. The longer you wait, the harder it's going to be, and the more punishing it'll be. Now moving on from variety, focusing back on the money aspect of this video, if we go back to October 2017, which is the month that I decided to go full-time into YouTube, you can see that I earned $4,556.52. Not gonna lie, I remember it being a lot more than that. I definitely thought I was more established when I decided to make the switch, but apparently I made it, I think, earlier than I would have now. Now, obviously, $4,500 a month is still a lot to make, especially for a university dropout who is just making videos. But I definitely jumped the gun on it a little bit. But at the time, I figured this is enough to sustain myself. I still lived at home, and I will admit I did make a stupid decision to buy my car at the time because I was like, oh, my car payments will only take up 1/3 of my monthly income. I can live off that. Definitely should not have made the decision looking back on it, but luckily it all worked out. And luckily for me it did. As you can tell, my income started to grow pretty quickly over the next few months. When you look at the graph, you can definitely see a trend where every 3 months the revenue kind of resets. You'll see a huge spike with a new season, it'll go down for the second month, go down a little bit more for the third month, and then start to go back up. In the beginning, in 2017 and 2018, these bumps weren't crazy, but they were still noticeable. Then as we got into 2019 and 2020, these bumps became significantly more important. Having my monthly revenue increase by 50% because of a new season was amazing. Having it drop back down to probably lower than before was a little bit hard to get used to, but as time has gone on, I've just learned to accept the roller coaster ride that is YouTube ad revenue. I'm sure this graph would look completely different if it's any other type of YouTuber. Video games work on release schedules, which means that as content gets stale, revenue is going to go down. That makes sense. New content comes out, we spike back up. Other channels will usually have a bit more consistency. People will subscribe for very specific content, come back on a very specific schedule, and it'll just stay steady. Increases will be more gradual instead of random spikes like this. If I could show you all that, I would, but I don't know any other content creators outside of Siege, so I can't really compare, and I doubt many people would want to show their stats to me. But that wraps up the YouTube section of this video. The next big category is Twitch. Twitch analytics is a little fucky and won't show me the total estimated revenue, so we're going to have to do some guesswork. We have the total subscriptions from October 1st, 2017 until today to be 156,845 subs. My current sub revenue split is 70% per sub, but it wasn't always like that. Once you start averaging around 1,000 subs a month that are non-gifted, then Twitch upgrades you from 50% to 70%. And I couldn't find exactly when I got switched over, but I think it was around November 2018. So we have 10,604 subs at around $2.50 each, and around 146,241 subs at $3.50 each. This brings us to a total estimated of $538,353.50 US. And that's just from subs. I would guess that it's probably closer to 500K when cleaning up any errors, and also the fact that Twitch does not pay out for certain subs. Apparently they can decide what subs are legitimate and which ones aren't. So sometimes bigger streamers will receive thousands of dollars less than they should because Twitch deems them as non-legitimate. Now I don't know for sure, but I have heard rumors that apparently this is one of the biggest reasons why certain big streamers have left the platform. Now lucky for me, Twitch isn't my sole income, so I don't have to worry too much about it. Now obviously it sucks when you receive a paycheck from Twitch and it's about 20K less than it should be, but at least I have YouTube. Now with all that said, YouTube, if you're watching this, let's talk. I'm open to switching to YouTube for streaming. You just have to reach out. Also YouTube Mixer, if you're still out there. But enough bashing on Twitch as a company, let's talk money. Subs are really the main source of revenue on Twitch. There's ads too, but they make up about only 4% of my monthly income. If we use April of this year as an example, I made an estimated $6,610.60 US. $390.64 of this was from ads. Now I only have ads for people who aren't subscribed, and only for when you join the stream. So you can make a lot more off of this if you just keep hitting that play ad button every 30 minutes, but it comes at the cost of pissing everyone off. Twitch ads are some of the worst things ever. Ads are unskippable and usually are between 10 to 30 seconds. On top of that, Twitch can now normally show you up to 10 ads in a row before you watch the stream. And if a content creator runs ads in the middle of their stream, that's another 7 to 10 ads you have to sit through. It's not like a stream is like a YouTube video where the video pauses. Things keep going, and if you're watching an ad, you miss it, plain and simple. Some creators I've talked to see this as a really good thing. They really like pushing that ad button to make extra money and saying that it should force people to sub. I don't personally agree with that. I think it's horrible. You disrupt so many people's viewing experiences just for a couple of extra bucks and spare change. It doesn't make sense to me. This is why I highly advise any people who are watching me, use ad blocker on Twitch. I do not give a fuck about ad revenue on Twitch. Now, if you can, I would appreciate it if you turn off the ad blocker for YouTube, since YouTube ads are less intrusive and easily skippable. But honestly, fuck Twitch's ads. And unfortunately, this is only the beginning. We're going to see a huge spike in ads on Twitch over the next few months. It's only going to get worse. Now, the one big upside to Twitch that YouTube somewhat has, but not really, at least for me, is consistency. Twitch is way more consistent in month-to-month revenue. For most people, about 95% of their subs are non-gifted, which means that people who do subscribe to the channel will likely stay around. So you get a lot more of a salary structure as long as you keep things consistent. You stay on the same schedule, you play the same game, you're going to have people keep coming back. The downside is the time spent for the money made. Back in the day, I used to consider Twitch my part-time job and YouTube my full-time job, but recently more of the reverse has happened. I now spend way more time streaming than I spend editing. At least I think. I'm lazy and I don't keep too much track. That means I spend more time on Twitch, but make less per hour. Which I'm fine with because Twitch is probably the platform that I would stay relevant on after Siege dies, where YouTube would probably crash and burn. So I'm kind of putting in my time and effort here. As long as you put in the time and the effort, you'll usually make about the same per month. Obviously, subs will fluctuate depending on how popular the game is, if there's any new content, and if people still want to keep watching you. If your act gets old, people will leave. But that's the same with YouTube. However, the consistency doesn't just stop at your month-to-month revenue. The consistency is also one of the biggest factors when it comes to content creator burnout on Twitch. On Twitch, time is money. The more time you stream, the more money you make. On YouTube, that's not the case. I could pump out a video in 5 seconds, and it might make more money than a video I spent 30 hours on. On Twitch, I can't do that. If I stream for 6 hours a day, I'm just going to make more money than if I streamed 3 hours a day. Which ultimately sucks for things like vacation. You cannot take vacation on Twitch without just essentially losing money. You're not going to be there, people aren't going to sub. Whereas for YouTube, you can make your content ahead of time, schedule it, and release it without anyone even noticing that you're gone. The whole time is money thing essentially forces content creators into a vicious cycle. The more time they spend on Twitch, the more money they make. But the more time they spend there, the more people expect from them. Which means that if they start peeling back their hours, they're going to make less money. And then they can't peel back hours because if they make less money, they can't make rent or whatever. So they spend more time on there. But then the more time they spend on there, the faster they burn out. Some people will stream for 8 to 12 hours a day with little to no breaks. The only breaks they have include going to the washroom or going to grab their food. To prevent this type of burnout for myself, I only stream 3 hours a day on average. 2 hours if I'm not really feeling it that day, or up to 5 hours if I want to stream 2 games or just do an extra stream in the evening. All these expectations and time spent is one of the reasons why if I had to choose, I would always choose YouTube over Twitch. The liberty you can have on YouTube and the ability to have content without having to be there is just too nice to pass up. Now don't get me wrong, the Twitch community is amazing, and I wouldn't trade them for anything in the world. But it can just be so draining when time is money. Now to wrap up this Twitch section, I'm going to say one more thing. I do want to point out that the amount of subs I have and the amount of money I make on Twitch is an anomaly. Don't look at my average viewership of like 500 people and think, wow, you can make 6K off that a month. That is not the average. In October of 2021, there was a data breach where someone found all of the money that had been paid out to all partnered channels on Twitch. On that list, I was number 331 in the world. That is insane. Somehow me, a 500 viewer average R6 streamer, was in the top 331. That makes no sense. The reason why is because of my charm. When we go back to the graph that shows how many subscriptions I had per month, you can notice quite a huge jump in September of 2019. That was the month I got my charm. I went from averaging about 1,000 subscribers or so per month to suddenly 10,000. And then with the first COVID lockdowns, I went again back up to 10K. Ever since then, I've averaged about 2,000 to 3,000 on a good month, which is still a lot, because someone of my size should probably only be averaging about 400 subs or less per month. So without the charm, I would probably be making very little money on Twitch, especially for how much time I put into it. So again, I don't want you guys to look at this and think, wow, Twitch is so easy, because realistically, like I said before, I'm very lucky. I should not be making as much money on Twitch as I am, but all thanks to the charm, I can. And it makes Twitch just a little bit more worth it for me. The last big category we're going to cover is sponsorships. This is the category I'll be most vague on, not because I don't want to talk about it too much, it's just I simply have no idea how much I've made since I went full time. If I really dove deep and looked into it, I could probably get an exact number, but it would take longer to do all of that than it would just to make the whole video. If I had to guess, I would say my total income from sponsorships since October 2017 would probably be over $200,000 US, probably way more than that. It could honestly be as high as 400,000. I don't know. This is because the amount you make per sponsorship can fluctuate wildly. Right now, my average rate for a YouTube integration is roughly $2,500 US. This can range from anywhere between like $1,500 to $4,000 depending on the level of integration and the expectations from the company. Social media posts are generally an extra $250 to $500 each on top of the integration. And then streams are usually about 50 cents to $1 per viewer per hour. So that's about $500 to $1,000 for a 2-hour stream for myself. This will usually include stuff like an overlay panel and shoutouts to sponsor every 30 minutes or so. Now the rates I just talked about are mainly for one-time sponsorships. These are integrations that you'll see once and then sometimes never see again. However, if a company is willing to sponsor you long-term, then the rates get a bit lower. You give up that high pay for some extra stability. Instead of making the integration once for $2,000 and then never seeing them again, you make it once per month for $1,000 and keep doing that for as long as they want. Personally, I prefer the consistency. In the past, I've gone 2 months without any integrations at all, and then I'll get like 4 in a 2-week span. And while it's a nice little cash injection, the instability is scary. I would rather have long-term sponsors who will pay me every month, even if it's half of the normal rate. Now, what I'm about to say is more directed to other content creators. Know your worth. I've had an insane amount of companies reaching out recently who are trying so hard to undercut my rates, and they expect so much in return. For example, I once had an offer to play a game on stream and watch some videos from the devs, all while talking very highly about the game and constantly shouting it out. It also included social media posts and some panels and stuff. All of this was for only about $100 for a 2-hour block. Now, for a lot of you smaller creators, it can be tough to pass up offers of money, but you really shouldn't take any offers below your desired rate. They all talk to each other and they know that you can be undercut if you easily accept it. Instead, talk to your other content creator friends and learn about their rates and their success. What I normally do is before I go through with any sponsorship, I'll message a couple of my close Siege creator friends and ask them how much they got paid for their integration and what their normal rate is. This has helped all of us increase how much we earn because we aren't getting undercut anymore. For a while, I had no idea what to charge, and then when I started talking to people, I found out that I was charging about 50% less than some of my creator friends were making, and they were getting about half the views I was. If I hadn't talked to them, I still would have been getting undercut. Which kind of brings me back to the whole reason I make these types of videos. People need to be more comfortable talking about money. It only benefits the big companies for us to be shy about it, because then they can undercut more people. If I had never talked to other creators, I'd probably be earning about 50% of what I currently am making through sponsors. That's a lot of wasted potential money. To wrap up this video, I'm going to quickly answer a few questions from my Twitter post, asking what people would like to hear in the video. First question is from my friend Cross, asking how much I pay in taxes. This one's a little bit complicated because I incorporated a few years ago, which means all my income goes to a company. Where I live, that means all the income to the company is taxed at a flat 15% rate. Now, when I pay money to myself from the company, it then gets taxed at a personal level, which depending on how much I take out per year, could be anywhere between 20 to 35%. The benefit of bringing all this money into a company instead of at a personal level is that if I were to bring it all in personally, I'd be getting taxed at about 53%. Instead, since it's only 15%, I can then invest the money inside of the company and make it grow before I take it out. And let's say I have $400,000. Instead of taking out $400K and getting taxed at 53%, I could then take out $50K per year for 8 years and only get taxed at about 30%. So I'm not quite scummy enough to incorporate in the Bahamas and pay zero taxes, but I will try to lower my tax rate as much as I can as long as it's within the legal confines of the system. Now, next question is about the Among Us videos and how much they earned. I did the math and it's about $9,384.85 Canadian. Among Us was definitely my best variety content, at least performance-wise, and quite frankly, I really regret not investing more into it. At the time, my average Siege video was getting about 200,000 views per video. So when I saw Among Us only getting 90K a video, I thought, this isn't worth my time, and what a fool I was for that. Obviously, Among Us died off fast, but if I had been able to ride that wave and just grow my channel by a couple 100,000 subs, it would have been worth it. But we live and we learn. Next question is about YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts have kind of blown up my views and subscribers to my channel after a long time drought. The downside is that they make no money. My most popular short got over 1.4 million views and didn't even make $7. Now, you can argue that the exposure and the viewership it can bring in makes up for it, but my biggest concern is that people who are watching shorts are not likely going to enjoy long, uncut videos on my channel. The short with 1.4 million views is about a person who's probably cheating. They can kind of get the whole gist of the video watching a 50-second clip. Why would they watch a 55-minute video? So I don't think it'll work long term, but I'm still going to keep at it because shorts don't take that much time to make. And honestly, at this point, any exposure is good, even if it's only like 5 viewers increase per month. And lastly, money, 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 arg, 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 crab emoji. That's for Marley. That's going to be it for the financial video. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys learned something from this. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about this as much as I enjoyed talking about it. I love talking money, so I'll keep making videos like this in the future, maybe every year or so if people want them. But that's it. Thank you for watching. Take care.